keep seeing this pattern in a very specific type of person: smart, analytical, engineer, consultant, someone who thinks for a living. And it's so interesting. They can explain everything about their problems, challenges, situation, why this, why not that. But when it comes to the one thing that truly matters, that's when this like indecision comes in, this like lack of ability to fully commit to the thing that they want. And so I want to talk about this pattern, where it's showing up, and the thing that I keep hearing people say they think is the solution versus what is actually the solution here, because it's never what they think it is. I used to be a software engineer, and when you're trained in one of these professions, engineer, analyst, someone who thinks their way through problems, like you are trained, your skill set, you are rewarded for thinking through everything. Edge cases, bugs, what's going to happen here? What's the edge case here? Do I have every possible situation accounted for? Have I tested through everything? And it's so interesting, this skill that it develops to think through all of the possible, scenarios. What could happen here? What are the pros and cons? You are rewarded for that. But then when you get to this part of your life where you're looking at career direction, life direction, where do I want to move to? What do I truly want? What do I want to work on? What's something big that I can work on? Purpose, service, fulfillment. You apply that same skill set because that is what you are good at. That's what you are trained on, rewarded for. And you get to this position where you think through all of the possible scenarios and your brain starts disqualifying all of the options before you can even get to something. You're looking for that one perfect answer, and it never shows up because every option has some downside. And this is what I'm calling edge case paralysis. It's this trap that forms in us like smart, highly analytical thinkers. You can't commit to anything because you see all of the options and your brain keeps surfacing reasons why that path, this path, that path won't work. And it's always right. This is the thing. It's like all of the reasons are always smart, logical. Like you think it's wisdom, but you stay stuck in this like loop of going down these paths, and then it kind of falls flat, and then you wonder why you can't commit to anything. And then you kind of circle back and in this phase of like figuring it out, but you've been doing that for like months or years. Normal indecision is like, I don't know what I want. But this type of paralysis is like, I can see 40 options and I can analyze every single path, and none of them like fits. None of them hits at like, oh, this is it. So I want to make this very concrete. And then I want to talk about the mechanism behind why this happens. I met this guy last year and coached him, data scientist, fit my story of like looking for something more fulfilling, meaningful, something like that wasn't wasting his own potential. Quit his job, moved to Bali, and was building apps, software apps using AI. Eventually went back to the US and was helping with family projects. And he came to me asking for help with routine and consistency. And I want to share some of the things that I noticed on this call that I had with him. About midway through our call, I asked him, where does he find enjoyment in his day-to-day life? And the first thing he says is, I really like my mornings. And then proceeded to go on this like 3 or 4 minute tangent about all of the things that drain him, the problems and challenges in his day, scattered brain, all of these projects taking up his attention. And it was like I was watching his brain take this question and kind of intercept it into like a problem, something to solve. And I literally, I cut him off after a couple minutes and said, like, I asked you about where you find enjoyment, the energy of excitement and enjoyment in your day. And you were talking about everything that you don't. And another moment, I was noticing this kind of analysis, optimization, pattern. I asked him, who are you when you're not doing anything? And there was like a little bit of silence, and then he talked about tasks, some gratitude, but he couldn't really fully answer this question. And it's so interesting, this like someone trained in systems optimization, complex like AI analysis, kind of goes blank when thinking about his own self identity, self image, without this like output, this outcome, result attached to it. Another part of our call, he came to me asking about routine, optimization, adding more structure to his day. And it was so interesting because I pulled back from our conversations in Bali the year before. And I was like, you were asking me then about routine, consistency, structure, and now he's struggling with it in the US. And partway through our call, he came back around to this idea of, I think the solution is I just need a better routine. And it's like the systems mindset, reaches for the systems solution, even when that hasn't worked in the last year. And so I share these things with you to give you an example of like how this shows up in a real person and not just a concept. The tendency, the mindset of looking for optimization, systems, routines, and yet still spinning or still struggling with committing, indecision, life, direction, and this desire to go back to the solution that you know. And so now I want to talk about the mechanism, why this happens in people like this. And then I want to go into how to actually fix this. The first thing is this optimization that becomes intertwined with the identity. We are trained to solve problems, get things done, optimize, systematize. And when that becomes your value that you provide to a company, every time you check a box, get things done, move a project, get that complete, you subtly tie your value and your worth to how well you can optimize your life. If you've been here and you resonate with this, I want you to kind of sit with this question, which is, what happens to you and your body when you are not producing something? What does that stillness feel like? It's almost like that stillness, that lack of progress isn't peace, but it's more like this pain of plateauing, of not producing, of not growing. And a lot of times what I see on these calls is there's an avoidance to that feeling. And what we'll do is immediately reach for the phone, go back to emails, continue to work to mask over that feeling. And the second part of this is using analysis for a problem that is not an analytical task. When you think of like, what do you want? What lights you up, gives you fulfillment, energy, fire, passion? This is not a checklist, analytical task that you complete. This is a felt sense, like the answer lives in your body, not in your mind. And so we use this tool that we've crafted and rewarded, and this body that we have no like awareness of. The answer is in the body, not in the mind. And the last part of this is this information and insight desire as an avoidance strategy. This feeling of like going for a walk and like needing to be productive, like listen to a podcast, I should be doing something right now, looking for an insight in AI, reading another book to fix a problem. It's this like procrastination that's masked as research. And for a smart analytical person, all of this feels productive because we hear these like insightful things and ideas and, oh, I should try that. And oh, there's this new term for this. Oh, I just need to do this. But all of this is this way to like avoid the part of this that doesn't belong in your head. And I hear a lot of these things of like what we think is the solution. You know, if I just had a better morning routine. But like for the data scientists that I work with, it wasn't that, because he tried it. It wasn't a new environment, because the same pattern was running in both Bali and back in the US. And it wasn't even more information, because like that was never the gap for him. It wasn't even like a new community or course or podcast. We are all looking for this framework, this one idea that we haven't heard before. And I want to pause and take a second to say, are you watching this video looking for the insight, the framework, the takeaway? Because if you resonated with who I'm speaking to and my past self so far, like this desire for the framework is the pattern. I want to end this video with some reframes for you and not a framework, because that would defeat the entire purpose of what I'm talking about. The first thing is, when you think about this struggle, what you want, committing to something, you can't think your way through this problem of what you want. The work of this starts and is in the entire space outside of your thinking. And that idea is terrifying for someone who's built on, how do I think through everything? The question here is not really, what do I want? A lot of us know an idea of what we want, or we know what we want and we're waiting for some permission to choose. The question here is more, who are you? Like, what is your identity when you are not at work, when you are not producing, optimizing, building? Who are you in the silence? Who are you when you are not thinking? What is going on? What happens? What physical sensations happen in your body, in silence? When you are reaching for your phone, when you are looking for some podcast, going on a walk, trying to, pick a podcast to listen to be productive. What is happening in your body at those moments? The answer is not in the podcast. It's in your physical sensation that you keep avoiding. When I think back to my own journey, the last couple of years going from software engineer into coaching people, all of the excuses that I was making, the logical, wise sounding rationalizations about why I can't start now. I don't have enough results. People won't listen to me. I should bring money into this gift that I have. My brain thought they were logical, but hiding underneath all of that was fear. And fear is not a thing, a task, an activity that you think through. Fear is a feeling, an emotion that exists in the body. It influences your thinking. It produces these thoughts, these rationalizations, why I should, wait and don't approach and tweak my offer. I was trying to think my way out of a feeling problem. And I'll end with this. I was talking with another software engineer this morning. We were talking about life and systems optimization and this difference between our internal state and our external environment and the connection between the two. And one of the realizations that he threw out there to me was that he thought the only way to think less is to do more. And it sounds right. When you're working, when you're producing, when you're in flow, and all of that noise kind of quiets. But I heard that and I said, how do you explain meditation then? Because you're not doing anything in meditation. And it was so interesting to see the crumbling of the framework, of the idea that I just need to do more and produce more, this pattern that continues to loop. And he was like, no, you're right. And he didn't have an answer. What happens in the silence? I'm not saying stop being analytical. I'm just saying that your analytical, logical skill set, expertise is being used on a problem, on a job it's not designed for. And so the answer that you're looking for is not in another framework. It's not in another YouTube video, podcast, insight, ChatGPT session. It's in the space between your thoughts that you keep filling. And with that, that's all I got for you in this video. See you in the next one.